The kingfisher must be one of the most popular birds to photograph within the UK. It's a Schedule 1 bird. That means to photograph it anywhere near a nest you need a licence, but away from the nest there's no such issues, and there is a really reliable way of photographing kingfishers. This is the perfect location. It's a very open river. There's trees in that direction, there's trees behind me, but on neither bank are there any trees at all, so there's no perches for the kingfish to land on and look across the water and fish. If I was to provide a perch just here, right out in the open, the next time a kingfisher comes along this river, it will see that perch. It will be like a magnet to it. It won't be able to resist it. You'll actually see it. It will fly past the perch, go back about 10 metres or so, do a U-turn and come back and land on the perch. It works 9 times out of 10. And I can just have a hide up on the bank here. Early in the morning the light is coming from that direction, so it's a very open aspect, so it gets well lit. All I need to do is provide a perch just here. That will do. It's not the prettiest perch in the world, but we can worry about that later. Let's get the kingfisher coming in on a regular basis first. And if the kingfisher catches a fish while he's here, he will keep coming back to it because he's now found a new fishing spot. He can cover a bit of water he couldn't previously cover unless he hovered. Now, kingfishers will hover, but they don't like to. They can have a nice perch 4 or 5 feet off the water. They can look around, see a fish, dive in. And if we provide a container just underneath here with some fish in it, then he is going to catch fish and he's going to keep coming back to it. The size of the container doesn't really matter. It can be very, very tiny. Kingfishers are used to diving into shallow water. They're diving into dark water where they can't see submerged roots of trees, etc. So they're very used to doing this. But this is a fairly large container. The important thing is that it's floating, because the water levels on the river will go up and down, so it's very important. It's just on a piece of string and will go up and down with the water. Put some fish into there, put a hide up on the bank, and within a couple of hours a kingfisher is likely to be landing on that perch. So here we have it, a standard British bird hide, just on the bank, just a few feet away. This is going to be roughly a 300 or 400mm lens on a full chip camera, so very close. Kingfishers are not disturbed by hides at all. They're actually a very confident species. In fact, the most likely thing that will go wrong, instead of landing on the perch, the kingfisher will land on the hide. It's happened to me time and time again. Even when that hide's never been there before, kingfisher's not used to it. They're actually very confident birds. So you just get inside there, spend a couple of hours. Once the bird comes in, if you feed it every day, it will get used to this spot. And you catch the fish by just with a child's fishing net, putting it onto the banks here, getting the little tiddlers out and putting them into the bowl. Then you've got to find nice attractive perches to put the bird on. And that's where the effort comes into it, trying to find something that's very attractive and will add to the picture. When the bird first arrives, you do quite naturally tend to keep very quiet and not move the lens around too much, but kingfishers will very quickly become used to any movement or sound from the hide. It's then just a question of finding nice attractive perches and arranging them so that they add something to the picture. Generally speaking, I like birds on small, thin branches rather than thick branches. And spindle always makes an attractive perch. As well as trying to do the birds on a natural perch, you then start looking for man-made objects. You're really just trying to be comprehensive now. You want kingfishers on every single prop that you can think of. An old bicycle frame, the fishing rod, a rusty bicycle wheel, anything you can think of. Rusty bit of barbed wire, and there'd be the no fishing sign and an RSPB sign. What you want is pictures of kingfishers in every situation, big fish, small fish, but notice the branch itself. It's a very attractive branch. You do them in the winter, a bit of snow, with a snowy background, and then sometimes doing birds small in the frame. You want big in the back frame, small, vertical, horizontal. And don't be put off by the weather. There's a lot to be said for photographing birds in bad weather conditions such as rain. They will display and interact with each other. If another kingfisher flies past, bird raises its wings, and a wide angle shot taken with a G11 compact camera showing the background, and backlit shots. And then with the Olympus M1X camera, where you get 60 frames per second with the Pro Capture, you can end up with shots like this. And you know, sometimes I think to myself, 60 frames per second is not enough. I really want 120 frames per second, especially when the bird's coming in towards the post. That is probably the best shot. But notice how low the bird comes into the perch. Hits it with his feet and then flips upright. And then you start taking those sort of silly shots, chocolatey box type shots, humour shots. Now I'm not going to cover flight photography because that's probably a different video, especially diving in the water shots. There's two techniques for doing this. It's not beginner stuff at all, it's quite complex, but I'll just show you a few pictures, and maybe one day I'll get to do a video on how you do diving kingfishers. Thank you, that's it.